What if Naruto inherited the power of ancient titans and built a harem with Kurenai, Anko, Yugao, Uzuki, Hana, Fame Kyuubi, Fame Shukaku, Fame Nibi, Samui, Yugito and Mei Terumi? Part 1. Several millennia ago, during a time ruled by gods, demons, and elementals, a land divided for those who rule it. The gods claimed the sky, created their cities of light and named it Olympus, while the demons declared the underworld their home, constructed a fortress called Makai. Finally, the elementals who ruled the land above Makai and below Olympus, divided it into 5 regions for the 5 basic elements of life. United, this land was named Alamend, and together, the elements came together to create Daxium, the white castle of the northern wind, along with its sister, Teretis, the black fortress of the southern current. Abacus, the silver city of the western ranges, and Xerophis, the grey village of the eastern storms, soon followed several years later. These 4 cities soon became the symbol for all of the elements except for one. Fire. Jealousy and madness started to fill the fire elementals' bodies, and before long, chaos started to appear. It wasn't until centuries later that the most of the fire elementals left their respective cities before they met at the heart of Alamend. There, they constructed a city for themselves, one they intended on using to show their might and power over the other 4 elements. They called this place Mortis, the Forbidden Gates of the Inferno. It would be years after the city's completion before the fire elementals would attack. Abacus was the first to be hit by the horde of flames before it quickly fell after a few hours of combat. The few survivors of the fallen city traveled to as quickly as they could. The news of the attack quickly spread to all who would listen. But unfortunately, not many would listen until the fall of Xerophis. Once the fall of Xerophis reached the ears of the elementals in Daxium and Teretis, all attempts were made to create an army to fight. It would be months before the army of the flames reached the walls of Daxium, and when it did, the 2 groups looked at each other before they charged. This was the beginning. The battles were far more than any could count, and days of combat turned into weeks before it turned into months and then years. These warring beasts' battles soon started to spread until it covered the whole land of Alamend. The armies of land, sea, and air engaged in an endless battle as they ripped the very ground that they stood on through their manipulation of the elements. Water from the ocean surged with ferocity as it forced the very land to shift at its whim. Wind sliced through all obstacles in its path as it left a trail of destruction in its wake. Fire scorched the fields of green as it reduced everything to ash and scarred the earth. Earth rose from the empty fields as mountains appeared in the middle of oceans, while peaks crashed down the heavens where they roamed for all of eternity. Days turn into weeks, months turn into years as the endless war continues on. The rivers of blood never stopped. As the sun rose above the destroyed field of battle, the 5 armies of the elements appeared to do battle once more. From the horizon, an army of warriors appeared with their weapons drawn and no essence of fear in their bloods. With the darkened clouds loomed overhead, the army charges towards the elemental armies with hope of victory and restore the peace to the lands. For 7 days and 6 nights, the 6 armies battled against each other with no intent to stop until there was a clear victory. On the 7th night, the army of warriors finally fell to the combined combat, leaving the 10 generals to fight the horde of creatures. Hours into the night, the generals started to fall one by one. As the last one fell to the blade of an elemental, an unnatural force shook the field with power no one has ever felt before. The ground split wide open as it devoured some of the combatants. Flames roared from the deeps of the abyss as it launched itself into the night sky before they dissipated completely. Some say that the gates of Makai broke open as a demon rose from the fiery abyss. Others say that a god that had fallen from Olympus had woken from his slumber after several millennia before he broke the gates of Makai. Whether demon or god, the remainder of the 5 armies attacked, yet nothing could touch him. The wind roared with every swipe while the earth trembled with every step. As the sun rose over the battlefield on the 8th day, it illuminated the carcass-covered field with no evidence of life anywhere. With the weapons of the 10 warrior generals gathered together, the elemental slayer stabs them into the ground before it started chanting. Slowly, the bodies of the beasts started to dissolve into particles before it floated towards the weapons. Each weapon started to glow brighter and brighter as more particles flew into them until a bright light consumed the whole field and the slayer. The light died down slowly to reveal the 10 weapons, but there was no evidence of the elemental slayer. The land suddenly broke before it encompassed the weapons in a tomb of stone. Legend stated that centuries after that battle, a group of 10 warriors that had explored the land had found the weapons located within the tomb. With weapons in hand, they continued on their way, not knowing what would occur in their evident future. Before long, the powers of the elementals leaked out of the weapons and resulted in corrupting the 10 beings with the power until they transformed into something beyond their wildest imaginations. Legend stated that the weapons gave the 10 men power beyond their wildest dreams, but at the cost of being transformed into the beasts themselves. No longer were they adventurers or explorers, but rather titans. With their newly gained power, the 10 warriors conquered the former lands of Harlemend and built their own empire. Fueled with the powers of the souls in their weapons, the titans gained power over individual elements. These elements branched out from the 5 natural elements. The first 5 of the titans received one of the basic elements of earth, fire, water, air, and lightning. From fire came magma while ice came from water. From earth came plants while lightning brought forth storms. Air remained true to itself and never branched out to other elements. However, the 10th titan acquired a unique element and thus made him different from the others. Some said that the new element brought strength and power that gave him power over the other 9. Once again, the shadows of darkness cover the land like it once did many centuries ago. The clouds no longer let the sun shine through them as the dark clouds above constantly hovers in the sky, as it gave no hope of an end. The 10 titans established their court in the ruins of Mortis before they established their empire. Using their power, they extended Harlemend and named the extension Titanus. With both Harlemend and Titanus under their control, the titans established their empire, giving each other an approximate equal to the others. Peace remained intact for several more years. As it occurred hundreds of scores ago, tension started to build between the separate titan empire to the point that war was inevitable between the powers. The lands once again became scarred after many centuries of healing while the clouds no longer parted, leaving darkness in its wake. Months of combat turned into years of slaughtering as villages and cities were destroyed. Nothing escaped the devastation of the war. As history repeats itself, deep from the pits of Makai, something rose from its slumber after many centuries and for the second time in several millennium, opens the earth once more to walk on it once again. Like the elementals several centuries ago, the Titan armies attacked the being only to easily defeated. He drew his blade, Dynwen, along with Asengard, a war axe-shaped tomahawk, before they charged into the fray like he once did many centuries ago. Demons, giants, elemental spirits, and all creatures or warriors called by the Titans fell to the weapons. And one by one, the Titans fell. As each one fell, he sealed them away, never to be found for all eternity. It was years later that the 10th and final Titan was sealed into his prison, but the conflict between the two didn't come without a price. It occurred several months after the sealing. The slayer of elementals and Titans fell to his knees at the gates of Makai before he closed his eyes. He knew it was his end and he stabbed Dynwen into rock before he started to fade. His body slowly disappeared into the thin air, leaving his blade embedded into the stone. A red-haired woman closed the book she held in her hands before she looked down at her swollen belly. Her name is Kushina Uzumaki Namikas, also known as the Red Death, and now, future mother of a child. With a smile, she turned her gaze outside to the dark clouds that covered the moon before she heard a knock on the door. She heard the door creak open and she turned to face it, only for a smile to grow on her face. Right by the door was her secret husband, Minato Namikas, also known as the Yellow Flash and the fourth Hokage of Konohagakure no Seto. With a smile plastered on his face, the blonde man moved towards the red-haired woman before he engulfed her in an embrace. She returns it after she placed the book onto a nearby table. Reading to the baby again, dear? Minato asked his wife while he held her close to him. Of course, she replied as she turned to face her blonde husband with a smile on her face. He's going to become an amazing ninja like us one day, I can feel it. I'm not going to argue with you on that one, though how will you know that the baby will be a he, not a she? Call it a mother's intuition. What were you ready to him anyway? The blonde asked as he stared at the book that was once in his wife's hands before she placed it down. It's Kalleda. She grabbed it back from the table she placed it on before relocating it to a bookcase nearby. The Legend of the Fallen. I found it when I was looking in your library and just started to read it to the baby. Legend of the Fallen, Minato said as his mind wandered. I remember now. The book is about how the mythical titans came to be and how the Fallen rose from his slumber to defeat them. Why would you read this to the baby though? Are you questioning me right now, mister? His wife asked with a sweet tone that made him shiver while he slowly backed away. Oh, of course not, dear, he stuttered out, resulting in a smile from the woman in front of him. Time skip, 5 months. In a cottage far away from the village, the cries of agony echo throughout the small household as a red-haired woman balled up her hands tightly before she released another blood-curdling scream of pain. Right beside her was the wife of the third Hokage, Bivako Sarutobi, while a blonde blur ran around like a chicken whose head just got cut off. Okay, dear, Bivako said calmly to the redhead. When the next contraction comes, you need to push. Okay, muttered an exhausted Kushina Uzumaki before the letting out a grunt of pain. Minato Namikaze, this is all of your fault. If you hadn't knocked me up like this. You're lucky that I can't move, or so help Kami. I would make sure that you wouldn't be able to do this to me again. But Kushichana, the blonde said in a small voice, afraid of the demonic energy that seems to be coming off from the red-haired woman. No buts, Namikaze, I promise you are. Minato, get you over here and help maintain the seal. Bivako shouted at the trembling blonde a few feet away. Are you not the fourth Hokage? I mean, this is the reason why male don't get pregnant, they're too weak to handle the pana. The blonde regained his composure as he moved towards his wife and watched as the red yuki started to leak out from the seal on her stomach before it gradually receded. Unknowns to him, Kushina and the sealed being were trying to keep themselves from being separated with all their might, but the pregnancy had weakened both of their strengths in great proportions. It was at that moment that a wave of pain surged through the red-haired Kunoichi as she released a cry of agony. Now Kushina, Bivako called to her. Push. With a grunt, the woman pushed as she wrapped her hand around her husband's hand and held it tightly. Minato, on the other hand, used a shadow clone to assist him in maintaining the seal. After a few minutes of grunts, pains, and pants, Bivako moved towards the two with a bundle in her hands. She then handed them the bundle to reveal a baby with cerulean eyes that stared into theirs. Congratulations, the wife of the third said to them softly. You have a healthy young boy. I told you the baby would be a boy, Kushina whispered to her blonde lover before she started to cough violently. Her husband and the old Sarutobi female both held looks of concern, and it only deepened when they spotted a small splatters of blood that stained her white hospital gown. Kushina, Minato shouted with surprise as he moved to hold her hand, but only for him to be pushed away by Bivako. The female Sarutobi and the few nurses started to examine the red-haired woman as she continued to cough up the red liquid. The sudden chatter between the doctors caused Minato to start pacing back and forth quickly while worrying and fear started to enter his system. Several screams alerted him as he turns towards the door to find a man with an orange mask on and his Ambu guards lying on the ground in rather large puddles of blood. With amazing speed, the orange-masked man throws several kunai at the blonde Hokage while throwing another set at the group of cowering nurses around Kushina's bed. With speed only he possessed, Minato dodged the hail of projectiles before he heard more screams. He turns to find that the second set of projectiles had killed the nurses, along with Bivako. All that remained were the Hokage, his wife, his newly born son, and the masked man. I must say, the masked man said aloud. You are quite faster than I had expected, Minato Namikaze, but I must say not fast enough. Minato narrowed his eyes and thoroughly examined his opponent. From what he had heard, it was a male and he wore an orange mask with a spiral pattern on it. His consisted of a large black cloak, capable of hiding weapons from his line of sight. What do you want from me? The fourth Hokage asked seriously. I want nothing of you. But rather I want your wife. I suggest you back away from the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Kitsune, Minato, the masked man replied before lifting his hand and revealed a bundle of towels and cloth. Otherwise your child dies. It would a shame really. Naruto, the distressed mother called out before she coughed once again. I guess I have no choice, do I? the aggressor said before he tossed the newborn up into the arm. Manato's eyes widened before he hurled his tri-pronged kunai. The projectile embedded itself into the wall before a yellow flash appeared and grabbed the falling baby boy. Your reputation precedes you, Namikaze, a voice said behind him. The blonde man turns to find the masked man to be standing right beside his wife. She seemed to be struggling in his grasp, but her weakened state did nothing to help her current position. No, the Hokage cried as the two disappeared into thin air, clearing several miles from Konoha. As quickly as he had disappeared, the masked man reappeared with the weakened Kushina beside him in a clearing with several towering rocks. Kushina, on the other hand, faded in between the blackness of unconsciousness and the color of reality. She felt nothing when the man placed shackles on her wrists and ankles. I would really like it if you would stay awake, dear, sneered the masked man. So you can see the end of Konoha along with your beloved Hokage before you die. I do need my Apeta from you though. With that said, the red Yuki started to leak from the red-haired woman's navel while she cried out in pain. The process continued as more and more of the red-colored Yuki poured out before it shaped itself into a fox with 9 tails. More minutes had passed and the blood-red fox started to grow to the point it was around 30 stories tall. Soon, the Yuki started to fade away to reveal the red-orange fur of the fox and the black eyes. Meanwhile, the red-haired woman just let her head hang as darkness closed around her. Naruto or Manetoa, she mumbled as exhaustion soon started to claim her. At last, you are mine now, the man cried out as the beast released a feral roar into the dark night. It is time you returned to your rightly owner. I don't think so, a voice behind him said, which prompted the cloaked figure to turn. Standing several feet in front of him was a man with a mop of blonde, spiky hair. It was all he needed to know who it was. It seems that you found me, he mocked. A shame really, but it seems that you are too late to stop me now. It's never too late to stop you, shouted the Namikaze as he hurled several of his tri-pronged kunai at his opponent. The cloaked man jumped away before his hand sped through several seals. You have tried to interfere in my plans for the last time, he shouted angrily. Fire release, dragon flame bomb. A great dragon of bright orange fire appeared from the mouth of the masked man before it launched itself towards the fourth Hokage. He vanished in a yellow flash before he reappeared several meters away. The roars of the fox demon echoed in the background as the two stared each other down. The two moved in a synchronized manner as they jumped backwards as they launched several projectiles like shurikens and kunais aimed at the other. The metal objects collided in mid-air and caused a cacophony of sounds before free-falling to the ground. You are only delaying the inevitable, Namikaze, growled the masked man. No one, not even you, can stop me. No one is unbeatable, the blonde cage retorted back. I will ensure of that. With that said, the blonde started to channel chakra to the palm of his hand. The chakra soon started to become visible to the eye as it formed a medium-sized ball. The ball of energy soon stabilized itself as it rested above the cage's hand. Minato then disappeared in a yellow flash, making the masked man's eyes narrow slightly. Where will he be? He thought as his feet shifted. I guess I will have to use your Thata move, Thina. Suddenly, a yellow flash appeared right beside him and the ball of chakra is pushed forward, only for its intended target to disappear. Instead, the ball crashes into a tree and split it in half in mere seconds. Foolish attack, Namikaze, the Hokage's enemy said. But I don't have time for you. With that, the man vanished along with the 9-tailed fox. The next day, it had been a day since the fox had been released from Kushina's body and it was beginning to take its toll on her. Minato never left her side when the doctors examined her after they returned after the conflict with the man. One of these doctors was Tsunade Shinjo, a student of Hiruzen Sarutobi, one of the legendary Sannin, and the best medical ninja they knew. It brought relief to both husband and wife when she told them the results of the examination. Kushina had suffered some internal damage because of the forced exit of the QB, but thanks to the small amounts of Yuki that was left in her body's system, it started to make repairs. It was because of this that Kushina was going to live. This greatly confused the two, but they just accepted the fact that the redhead was going to live even after the ordeal that just occurred. She was still ordered bed rest by the blonde Sannin, and thus resulted in Minato staying by her side to the point that he brought most of his paperwork with him to the hospital. The two decided to tell the events that occurred at the cottage with only two people, Hiruzen Sarutobi and Minato's sensei, Jiraiya of the Sannin. The former Kage could only look at the two with shock when they revealed the death of his wife by the hands of the unknown assailant. Now, it was night time in Konoha, though one could be forgiven if any had said it was as warm as a summer's day. The reason of the warmth and brightness was that Konohagakure no Seto, the village hidden in the leaves, was under attack. The attacker was not the army of an enemy village, nor was it even human. It was a fox of monstrous proportions with 9 waving tails behind it. The fox was by all definitions a demon and as such had a fitting title, Kyubi no Yuko, the demon lord of the 9th circle of Makai. Its maws unleashed torrents of flames that ignited the field of trees and its tails caused mountains to crumble into dust. The flames spread throughout some parts of the village and it was burning so brightly that one would mistake it for the sunrise. Many buildings burned down while civilians ran towards the bunkers and safe houses located in several areas of the village. On the other hand, all shinobi and kunoichi raced towards the front lines with hopes to delay the beast. The ninja of Konoha were not simply going to let this demon destroy their home. Everything that they had worked so hard to rebuild after the war with Iwagaka would be for naught if the fox penetrated their line of defense. They fought with all the power they could muster, trying everything to subdue the beast, but it was not enough. The 9-tailed demon was attacking at random patterns, leaving destruction and death in its wake. Any attacks that the shinobi launched at the beast would do nothing other than annoy it. All they could do was stall it and hope that their Hokage could muster a plan to defeat the demon lord and end the destruction. With Minato-kun, what will you do? Asked a weak and weary Kushina. There was no immediate answer as a long silence followed the question. Kushina only looked at her husband and instantly knew he was deep in thought. She waited patiently, something she was never good at, before she saw the small frown that marred his face. This worried her greatly as she continued to look at her husband. I'm thinking that I may have to seal it. There doesn't seem to be any other way, the blonde Kage answered. Seal? She inquired as her eyes narrowed. Into what exactly? This is the Kyubi no Yuko that we are talking about here. She cannot easily be sealed into an iron ball like the Nibi or a kettle like the Ichibi. The container would easily be destroyed in a matter of hours unless it was a person you sealed her into. Besides, Kyubi-chan is not like this. What reason would she attack Konoha and us? This isn't like her at Allah, she wasn't still our friend. Besides, what would you seal her into? As she asked this question, the fear within her body started to rise as she thought of the possible solutions for their current dilemma. She was deep into thought and didn't see her lover look down. He would have to seal it into a human being, she concluded. That could mean only one thing. Kushina-chan, I must seal it into a newborn baby, he replied softly. It is the only way. Kushina looked at the man she currently loved as his answer only confirmed her fears. Her look did not held one of love, happiness, or anything positive but rather one of pain and suffering. This was aimed at the Hokage as she slowly moves towards the frightened man. You cannot be serious. You would be damning that child to a life of misery, she shouted at him while she thought about her newborn child and the events that would occur if this fate was thrust upon him. I have no choice. Either one must endure this or the whole village will be destroyed. There was no anger in his voice, only regret and disappointment for the current course of action. Her expression softened as she looked at him. What about if you and Iya? She asked quietly, only to be interrupted by Minato. No, it would not be possible. You are still weak from that man extracting Kyubi from you. There is nothing we can do. The sealing is the only method. I still don't agree, but there haven't been any births. Her voice tapered as her thoughts wandered on before realization struck her. She turned to see the apologetic look upon the Namikaze's face before she gave him a death glare. No, you will not use our child. I will not subject our own flesh and blood to that. I absolutely refuse. I would trust no one else with such a burden other than one of my own flesh and blood. No, I absolutely refuse to do this. Nothing means more to me than him. If I can't make the sacrifice, how can I ask someone else to do so? There are no births as of the last 2 days other than Naruto. I must seal Kyuubi into him to save the village, and that would mean that Naruto will become an orphan. Orphan? What do you mean orphan? The sealing, he said hesitantly before continuing. The sealing will require my life. I must summon the Shinigami to consummate the sealing. She quickly realized what he just said before letting the grief and sadness flood her system. She shared a bond with Minato that was beyond the status of husband and wife. It was to the point that when one of them died, the other would shortly follow to ensure that they would remain united even in the afterlife. It was too much for her to bear as the tears started to fall from her eyes. She held on to her son, knowing that these were going to be the last moments that they have together. Both Minato and Kushina spoke nothing more as they cherished the last few minutes they had together with their son. Unfortunately, the monstrous roar of the Kyuubi reached their ears, and with sorrowful eyes, the blonde Hokage took the infant from his wife's arms. Kushina-hime, it's time. I must go and perform the sealing before any more lives are lost, Minato said in a soft voice. I'll see you on the other side, Minato-koi, she replied before looking at her son. Naruto, know that I will always love you even though your father and I could not be with you in life. Live your life like we did with ours and know that we will always be watching you. Make sure to eat your vegetables and become a great shinobi like your father and I were. Goodbye my Sona. Her voice softened as she planted a kiss on the babe's forehead before more tears cascaded from her eyes. She just looked at Minato with sad eyes as he looked at their son before disappearing in a yellow flash. Battlefield. When he arrived at the battlefield in a bright yellow flash, a unanimous cry from all Konoha shinobi filled the air. The commotion started to pick up as the waves of attacks started to increase. This significantly started to slow down the Demon Lord from the mass of attacks. But Minato heard none of this. All he saw was the large scale of destruction that littered the field. All of his senses were at an all-time high. The feeling of a blood-soaked ground squelching as he walks towards the sound of dying comrades. The smell of burning flesh, the taste of the smoke thick in the air from all of the fires, and the sight of hundreds upon hundreds of lifeless bodies, ripped into shreds, burnt, flattened by the fox's great paws, all dyed red with blood. It was all too much. Right beside the blonde man was a rather old one wearing battle armor, and behind these two were two other shinobi. Minato-kun, are you sure that this is for the best? You could teach me the hand signs for the jutsu and allow me to take your place? Asked the old man. No thank you, Sarutobi-sama. This is my responsibility and I will not shirk from my duties as Hokage, Minato said strongly before looking at the elder man. It was there that Sarutobi saw a resolve of steel. He then knew nothing he said would affect the man's decision in any form. Kakashi, come, the blonde called as a man with gravity-defying hair walks forward. Watch over him and protect him. When the time comes, be there for him. Please, I will sensei, Kakashi answered softly. Jiraiya sensei, I already know brat, replied Jiraiya, a man with a flowing mane of white spiky hair. Teach him when he's ready and don't turn him into a pervert unless I want Kushina to come back and kill me for it. This earned small chuckles from the three shinobi while Jiraiya just lets out a sigh of disappointment. Minato then turned towards the elder Sarutobi once again. Sarutobi-sama, please make sure he is treated like a hero. He deserves to be one. I will make sure he will be. The reassurance was all Minato needed before he bit his thumb. His hands started to weave into hand signs before they slammed onto the ground. Suddenly, a large plume of white smoke appeared before dissipating to reveal a very large toad wearing a large blue happy vest with a massive Dosu blade at his hip. The toad's famous Kiseru pipe hung from his mouth. He looks towards his opponent. This was Gambunta, the current boss summoned for the Toad Summoning Clan. Minato, if I'm not much mistaken, that's the Kyuubi. Don't tell me you seriously intend on taking on the most powerful of the Biju. Gamabunta asked the blonde cage riding on top his head. Afraid so boss. I need you to keep him busy and me out of his reach while I make the final preparations for the sealing, Minato replied. I will do what I can, the toad boss replied before he jumped towards the nine-tailed fox. Water release, gunshot. Bullets of water shot out of the boss summon's mouth and flew towards the red fox before making impact. With a mighty roar, the Demon Lord unleashed a torrent of crimson flames. The flames made impact with the ground and resulted in earth-shattering screams. Gamabunta, we need to get the fox away from the village, shouted the blonde Hawkeye. I'll try, but I don't know if I will be able to, grunted the toad boss before he drew his blade from its sheath. Come on Flame Breathe, let's see what you got. A water release, gunshot. Several blobs of water shot out of the toad's mouth and made impact with the fox demon. It unleashed another roar before one of the tails lunged to attack. Gamabunta dodges the attack with a quick dodge before he spat out more balls of liquid and lunged forward with his blade. It almost reached its target before several tails slammed onto the boss summon's side and caused him to slide several meters. Gamabunta took a few seconds to regain his senses, and during this time, the QB slashed him. The attack didn't hit the large toad but rather hit his pipe, causing it to break into several pieces. Damn, muttered Gamabunta as he spat out the remains of pipe before he tightened his hold on his blade. That was favorite pipa. He then charged the beast and clashed with it. The fox held the toad boss to a standstill and caused the surrounding area to become even more devastated. Every time the fox left an opening, Gamabunta took advantage with an attack. The fox would defend itself from any of the attacks using its tails. It's ready, Minato screamed over the sounds of battle. I'm sorry, but this must be Donia, especially to you QB no Yuko, Shiki Fuin. Above the fourth Hawkeye, a spectral entity appeared. It wore a white cloak while it held a dagger between its teeth. He knew just who this entity was. It was the Shinigami. QB tried to move away from the being, but its body would not move one bit. The Demon Lord watched as the Shinigami plunged its hand through the blonde Hawkeye before it grabbed its soul. QB tried to struggle out of its grasp as it was once again sealed into another human being. This time, it was sealed into the newborn named Naruto, and when the Shinigami released it, an intricate pattern appears on his stomach. Minato just spent the last few moments of his life and held his son. I'm sorry for doing this, my son, he whispered while his tears flowed from his eyes. I'm sorry for preventing you from having a family. I'm sorry for not being able to be there for you when you start your own family. I can only hope that you will find someone who will love you, no matter what you contain. Someone like your mother. I'm sorry, my Sona. With those final words, the blonde Cage took his last breath with his eyes centered on his crying son. He knew that Kushina would soon follow him to the afterlife, and he hoped that his village would treat him as a hero. At the battlefield, the shinobi of Konoha could only celebrate as they watched the QB disappear and knew that their Hawkeye had defeated it. Everyone cheered except for Hiruzen Sarutobi, Kakashi, and Jiraiya. These three shinobi rushed to where the QB disappeared and found the dead body of the fourth holding his crying son. Above them, Gamabunta let a single tear fall from his eye before he returned to the summoning realm. Kakashi took the crying baby into his arms while Jiraiya lifted the dead body of the Hawkeye. It was at this point that Konoha shinobi appeared from the trees before they asked the location of the fourth, but the Sarutobi prevented them. He quickly took control of the situation and told them that this was neither the time nor the place to answer the questions. Days later, Sarutobi retook the mantle as the Hawkeye to prevent the chaos and anarchy that would have emerged from the death of their Hawkeye. He held the information of Naruto's true heritage from the council and told them of his status as an orphan from a civilian family. He also told them the burden he currently held as the Jinchuriki of the QB and how the fourth wanted him seen as a hero. The civilians and elders called for his death and constantly called for his death as they state that he would become the demon reincarnated. On the other hand, the shinobi side wanted to respect their dead Cage's last wish and attempted to adopt the child with the exception of the Uchiha clan. The elders and the civilian council put down the idea quickly. Sarutobi knew what had to be done and told the council that Naruto will be placed in an orphanage. His status as the Jinchuriki of the QB was now an S-ranked secret with the penalty of death to those that speak of it before he dismissed the council. Years later, Sarutobi looked outside his window at the proud village of Konoha with his thoughts wandering to the blonde child. Little did he know about the fate he would have or the greatness that he would soon achieve. Little did he know about the future of Konoha. Little did he know about what will soon happen to the elemental nations. Today is October 10th. Location: a village surrounded by miles of forests in any direction. This village is called the village hidden in the leaves. It was considered to the strongest over the other 4 major villages through their prowess in strength in military and politics through the production of strong shinobi. This included the Professor, Copy Ninja Kakashi, the Sannin, the Inoshika Chotrio, and most of all, the Yellow Flash. The Yellow Flash, also known as Minato Namikaze, was remembered by all through the Third Shinobi War when he defeated several squads of Iwa and even more so when he defeated the Demon Lord of the Ninth Circle, the Kyuubi no Katsune. It has been 8 years have passed since that battle and since then, the village has thrived. Many of the citizens currently celebrate as the day marked the death of the Kyuubi, but they also mourn the death of the 4th Hokage for his sacrifice. It was also 8 years since the reinstated Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, passed the S-rank law that punished those that told others about the Kyuubi being sealed into a boy, the son of the late 4th Hokage, named Naruto. It was his belief that this law would prevent those in the council from passing the information to others, but all it did was harden the task. They were successful in spreading the information to the citizens, and this transformed into a strong hate aimed towards the newborn Jinchuriki. It all started when he was kicked out of the orphanage at the age of 3 and had to suffer the assault from a massive mob of citizens. They chased him and attacked him when they finally caught him. It would have continued until the 3rd Hokage came and saved him before he had his Ambu execute the attackers. Then, he gave the boy an apartment to live in, and it resided in between the merchants and shinobi area of the village. Along with the apartment, the Hokage gave him a weekly allowance to purchase from stores. Whenever he went anywhere, everyone would send glares at him. The stores he went to held a strong hatred towards him and either overpriced their goods, refused to give him any service, or threw him out into the streets. This continued until it reached October 10th. During this day, many of the civilians and shinobi would get drunk because of the celebrations before creating a mob. This mob would try to find the boy and attack him. Because of the frequency of these events, it finally became a form of entertainment that many called fox hunt. The mobs that formed were mostly civilians, but sometimes shinobi would join in. No matter how long it took, they would always catch the boy and beat him within an inch of death before being rescued by his protectors. His protectors would kill some people of the mob before they dispersed. They would then get him to a hospital and get him treated before staying with him to make sure he was safe. This dark night of October was no different than the rest, as shouts of, "Kill the demon!" and "Let's finish what the 4th started!" filled the alleyways of the village. A young boy with a mop of blonde hair ran through the alleyways and streets as he tried to escape. Behind him, a large mob that contained shinobi and civilians alike followed him. Their expressions held one of glee and malicious intent as they followed their prey. Whenever they spotted him, they started to throw anything they could to slow him down or even stop him. These projectiles included glass bottles, knives, and shurikens. They flew at high speeds and smashed into random walls or buildings as the blonde waved his way through the incoming attacks. It wasn't long before a stray kunai impales itself into the running blonde and caused him to fall onto the ground. This allowed his pursuers to gain ground, and it wasn't long before they were a few meters away from the boy. He tried to scramble away, but several more projectiles hit his back and caused him to fall back down in pain. Naruto just curled into a ball as he accepted his fate. "Look here, boys, the demon is trying to huddle up to keep itself from being killed. We can't have that now, can we?" said a crazy-looking man. "It's time for you to pay your dues. You've lived in our village for the past 7 years and take our food along with the madness you ensure with your so-called pranks. You killed my wife. My family died all because of you. You destroyed my clan's house. This is for my sister." He even controls the Hokage himself. He lets him roam our village and cause mayhem. I say it's time for him to end. It's time to finish what the 4th started and kill this beast to protect Konoha from his terror. "Kill him, yeah," cried the members of the mob as they rushed in to beat the helpless child, pushing him to the brink of death. They started to pull out several items like long wooden sticks and sharpened blades before they used them against the boy. The pieces of wood made impact against his body and left large black bruises everywhere. It wasn't long before the crowd heard a crack along with a cry. They knew that a bone was broken, and instead of stopping, they just continued with more ferocity. The kunais and knives were stabbed into his skin and were slowly dragged in random directions. They formed long cuts that allowed a large amount of blood to pour out. It wasn't long before the boy started to lose consciousness from the massive loss of blood. He didn't see the two large pieces of wood that his aggressors brought with them or feel the pain as they stabbed a kunai through his hands and feet. It felt like hours of torture for the blonde boy until he finally fell to the darkness of unconsciousness. When the mob saw him lose his consciousness, they continued to abuse his body before they stepped back to examine their work. Their victim was stabbed to a wooden cross while streams of blood continued to pour out of the cuts. The cuts and bruises littered his whole body. They knew that no one would be able to identify the boy because of the large amounts of damage done. It's time to end this. You will now die. Yeah, burn his body. Say goodbye, demon. A fire release. Great fireball. A large orange ball of fire launched from the mouth of the ninja before it flew towards the deformed body of the blonde. All around the ninja, the large mob of people cheered loudly as they were about to witness the death of the demon. Naruto, on the other hand, knew what was about to happen and accepted the fate of death as he felt the intensity of the heat increase. However, fate smiled upon him. Water release. Water fang bullet. Out of nowhere, a large bullet of water slammed into the speeding ball of fire before it extinguished the flames from the plane of existence. However, the impact of water and fire created a shroud of mist that covered the area. The people of the mob could only narrow their eyes as they tried to make out anything within the field. It wasn't long before the veil of mist disappeared and revealed 5 beings that proudly stood in between them and the blonde boy. Upon further examination of the group of individuals, they quickly saw that 4 of them wore full black pants and full black shirts with light grey chest armor. Their faces shifted to one of terror when they saw that the faces of these people were covered with an animal mask. They were Ambu. The 5th person was different from the other 4 and stood in between them. The individual was an old man who wore white robes along with a triangular hat. The most prominent detail of the hat was the kanji for fire. This was Hiruzen Sarutobi, the 3rd Hokage, and he was not pleased. "What the hell do you people think you are doing?" he asked sharply while his killing intent rolled off him in massive amounts. "Hokage-sama," one of the Ambu called. "Why, you might want to see Tissa." The Hokage turned and paled at the sight in front of him. He saw the blonde hair and automatically knew who it was. Around him, the 4 shinobi grasped their blades as they slowly leaked out killing intent. The old man quickly turned back around to face the crowd of people with a glare etched on his face. We were just finishing what the F4 started Hokage-sama, a frightened shinobi said from amidst the mass of people before they felt another wave of ki. "What you're doing is hurt an innocent child," roared the Hokage as he added more ki with each word. "He is not innocent," a random citizen cried out. "He is a demon. He controls you and make you see him as a child." Silence reigned for a few moments before the citizen let fear overcome his senses. He tried to turn and run away, but it was too late for him. He slammed into something and fell down to the ground. His eyes dilated as he saw what stalked him. In front of him was one of the Ambu that stood by the Hokage. "You broke an S-ranked law," the shinobi whispered before he drew his blade. "You will now accept the punishment of death." As soon as the word, "death," was said, the ninja stabbed the blade into the man's heart before being pulled out. No else moved or spoke a word. "Ambu!" Sarutobi yelled as more of the masked shinobi appeared out of nowhere. "Take them into custody. All shinobi are now dishonorably discharged from your services. Take them all to Ibiki and tell him not to hold back." "Herr Hokage-sama," responded the masked shinobi before they surrounded the people and led them down the alleyway to another portion of the village. "Cat, dog, snake, and bear, you're with me. We're taking Naruto to the hospital." The 4 Ambu nodded before they moved towards the blonde. Carefully, the kunais from his hands and feet before placing bandages at the holes to try to prevent more blood loss. Then, cat and dog took the boy before they quickly moved towards the nearest hospital. Konoha Hospital. It would be a matter of minutes before the group made it to the hospital. The blonde boy was then taken to a special room for him. The head doctor made it when they found out that several of the staff flat out refused to care for the boy because he was a demon. Those doctors and nurses were promptly fired several minutes later. Only those loyal to the Hokage and held no hatred towards him were allowed to apply in the hospital. Two of the doctors that treated him were Megumi and Miho Megumi. They knew Naruto was the son of Minato and Kushina through the friendship the four had. A group of doctors stopped working before dispersing while one of them headed towards a worried old man. Sarutobi-sama, it seems he is fine thanks to the Kyuubi. It healed most of the wounds, but I know nothing of the boy's mental state. I would probably hypothesize it's on the verge of breaking down, Miho stated. Damn those deranged villagers, cursed Hiruzen, but right now, he was too worried of Naruto's welfare to care about the villagers right now. Dog and the other three Ambu could only tighten their fists in anger and grief for the blonde boy. It's best to let him rest for now and wait for the result in the morning, said Akiko in a sad tone. Thank you both for doing all that you can for him, the third said before he bowed towards them in respect. It's our duty as medics to heal and treat all who enter this hospital. There is no need to be so thankful, Sarutobi-sama, when we are doing what we had to do. We swore that when we took the Hippocratic Oath, Miho said with a small smile before he and Akiko bowed and exited the room. Kami-sama, please help Naruto, prayed the third Hokage with closed eyes as he walked towards the exit of the room. I can only do so much when faced with these unbearable odds. Help me to protect him. I'm sorry we couldn't protect you, Dog whispered softly as he looked at the blonde boy wrapped in the gauze, bandages, and tape. I promised to protect you and I will. Don't worry about it, Dog, Cat whispered to him. You did what you could. Your sensei knows that you always tried to be with him and protect him. Thanks, Cat. With that, the two Ambu exit the room followed by their colleagues. The third Hokage looked back at the boy before he exited the room. They didn't know of what would happen when the blonde woke up. He would be a new person in everything but personality. Naruto's mindscape. Naruto felt himself regaining consciousness, and much to his surprise, he also felt something cool and wet on his back. His eyes soon opened to reveal a dark corridor while the walkway was covered in water. The only sound that can be heard were water drops that made impact to the body of water on the ground. It reminded him of a sewer. What happened, Ada? He questioned himself before he got up. Where am I? It looks like a severa. He started to walk in a random direction with no ideas of how to get out until he heard a sound. It was soft but was similar to a growl of an animal. Curiosity overpowered him as he started to move towards the origin of the noise before he heard it again, but only louder. This continued on until he found a passageway. At the back of the passageway was a massive prison door with a slip of paper stuck to the middle as if it was the lock to the gate. Unknown to him, the paper had the kanji for seal on it. He approached the gate slowly as the growl continued to grow louder and louder. Suddenly, two large and ferocious eyes opened from within the gates while a deep voice resonated all around. Who dares to enter my domain? En Naruto Yu Uzumakiya. Ah! My beloved jailer has decided to visit his prisoner. Do you know who I am, child? En Noah. So the warden doesn't even know the name of his prisoner. How inconvenient. So who are you? Who am I? Who am I? Growled the voice. I am the destroyer of mountains and creator of tsunamis. I am the gatekeeper of Makai and the defender of the keep. I am the demon lord of the ninth circle. I am Kyuubi. Hear my roar and tremble at my power, mortal. The water shook with every word the demon spoke before it blew away at his roar. Naruto just shook in fear as he looked at the pair of red eyes. It took him a few minutes before he was able to speak again. I have been hurt many times and they keep on calling me a demona. I hear the whispers behind my back as people talk about me as the demona. Am I a human or a demon? Did I kill those people like they say or not? Who am I? He asked aloud as his tears started to fall from his eyes before he looked at the demon lord. Am I a demon like they said? No, you are no demon, growled the fox. I am a demon and you are a human. Then why do they beat me? He cried. Why do they constantly call me demon as they hurt me? One being I once knew said that humanity's stupidity is beyond infinite. They do not try and hurt you but rather try and hurt me. What those worthless humans believe is that you are me and I am you. They believe that you are me but in the form of a human. Veta, are you saying that you are in me? Yes, but that does not make you a demon. Then what does that make me? I hold you inside my body. The blonde cried. I am a demon. Silence yourself, child. Growled the QB. Just because you contain me does not make you a demon. No, that makes you a Jinchuriki. What? Jinchuriki is a human prison for an entity. You are one as are a few others, but that does not make you a demon. I guess why you're right. Those villagers are the demons. They hurt a child who has no control over events. My kind treat their young with care, no matter the circumstances. They are the worst kind of human, and I hope to see them in Makai after their deaths. What happens now? First of all, stop stuttering like an idiot. I will do nothing to you as long as you comply with my requests. What are they? You are weak, and that reflects on my strength. I will not be weak. You will become strong, and then we will see what will happen from Theria. I don't understand. You are my container and thus represent me in a certain sense. By being weak, it shows that I am weak. You will become strong with my help. How? If you would stop talking, then I would be able to explain, snarled the demon and earned a fearful look from the blonde. Because I am a tailed demon, I am able to control the elements, and that allows me to call upon certain spirits that can assist you. Why do you want me to be strong? Meet my requirements and only then will I tell you my story. I guess I have no choice then. No, you always have a choice. No one is ever forced to make a decision, but rather they decided to make the decision. I guess I'll accept your offer. Very well then. You need to rip a small part of the seal off the cage so I can do what is needed to be done. You will gain the ability to harness the elements with the help of the spirits. Along with that, you will gain increased senses, stamina, reflexes, and chakra. I also get some things as well through this agreement. Like what? I can hear what you hear, see what you see, taste what you taste, all the jazz. I guess a thank you, and no one has done so much for me other than the old man and a few others. We will talk again soon, but you need to rip part of the seal so I can begin. With that said, the large red eyes soon disappear from the boy's view. Naruto moved towards the seal before he pulled on it a little bit. It wasn't long before he felt something warm start to surround him. Instantly, wave after wave of power rushed out from the cage and slammed into him. All around him, the corridor started to shift into a circular room with the QB's cage. 5 pillars surrounded him, and it wasn't long before the blonde's curiosity got the better of him. He lightly grazed the stone tower with his finger before it suddenly started to crack. The pillar he touched started to rupture while the other 4 started to fracture. Soon, light started to erupt from the broken pillars and caused the young child to shield his eyes. It wasn't long before the light diminished and revealed 5 figures. He didn't know it at the time, but these 5 were going to become his teachers. Intrigued, Naruto took the time to examine them as soon as he uncovered his eyes. First was Aries, the spirit of the wind. She stood proudly at 5 feet 10 inches with dirty blonde hair. Her body was covered with a pearl-white kimono that hugged her womanly figure while only showing moderate amounts of cleavage. She had a heart-shaped face while her blonde hair reached down to her back. In Naruto's opinion, the most interesting feature of the woman was her emerald green eyes. They were unique and held warmth and kindness when they looked at him. Next was Velina, the spirit of water. She was shorter than Aries, as she was 5 feet 8, and wore a deep blue kimono. Her hair reached her upper back while they were fanned out in contrast to Aries' ponytail. Her face was almost the same heart shape as the wind spirit but with sky blue eyes that held serenity. What caught the blonde's interests was the woman's blue hair because it felt like it matched the color of his eyes. Then there was Odin, the spirit of lightning. The child was a little scared when he first examined him as the fact that he looked like a demon of some sorts with 2 curved horns attached to his head. He was covered with a black armor trimmed with a golden yellow while his skin was like bronze. On his left forearm was something that looked like a shield while his amethyst-colored eyes evoked fear as they looked into the child's light blue ones. Afterwards was Bahamut, the spirit of fire. Practically, he looked like a dragon-human hybrid with a pair of wings on his back. His skin was a dull grey while he wore a helmet the shape of a dragon's head. His armor was akin to a dark paladin but only with wings. Think Siegfried's armor from the Soul Calibur series but only black and grey in color. His eyes were slits with golden background and gave the hybrid look feral. Finally, there was Exodus, the spirit of earth. He looked like a large stone golem. Enough said. While Naruto examined the 5 spirits, they also looked at him before they spotted the fear etched on his face. Velina quickly sensed his fear before she stepped forward and wrapped the boy with her aura. It acted as a blanket and the boy almost immediately calmed down. She saw this before she moved towards him and lowered herself to look him in the eyes. "Hello young one, my name is Velina and these are my friends. That's Ares, Bahamut, Odin, and Exodus," she said softly before she looked behind him. It is an honor to see you again Lord Kyuubi. I see that you are well Velina, grumbled the beast. Odin, Bahamut, Ares, Exodus. Quote, when the Kyuubi called out their names, they responded with a nod except for Ares and Velina, who bowed. "If I may ask, Lord Kyuubi, why have you called the 5 of us here?" Asked Odin. "I summoned the 5 of you here because I have been sealed once again. The kid is weak and thus currently gives me the image of a weakling. You are to train him in your respected arts. We will talk again soon but I must rest. Summoning here took much out of me." "By your will, Lord Kyuubi," responded the 5 elementals before they turned to face the young blonde boy. "Hello young one. Lord Kyuubi has told you the requirements to begin our training, correct?" said Bahamut, only to receive a confused look from Naruto. Very well, in order for us to accept you into our training, you must pass our tests. Odin will test your strength. Exodus will look at your resolve. Ares will examine your control. Velina will assess your patience. I will question your heart. Are you ready to face us?" Naruto responded with a nod of his and Bahamut turned his head to face the other 4 elementals before he gave them a nod. The giant stone golem lumbered forward and faced the boy. "I am Exodus, spirit of the earth and I will give you the trial of the mind," he stated. Why do you wish to become a shinobi? What purpose will our training do to your future? Do you wish to feel the victory through the death of your opponents or to bask in the glory of your accomplishments? Do you seek the thrill of a fight against your foes or form a name in which all will fear? Why is it your dream to become strong?" The blonde started to think deeply about the golem's question. "I wanted to become a shinobi because I eventually wanted to become the Hokage so people would respect me," he thought. But why do I want to become strong? Is there any reason?" Flashback. Naruto sat on a stool with a bowl of steaming hot ramen in front of him. He was at his favorite place, Ichiraku Ramen, and started to dig into his meal before he heard a chuckle behind him. It wasn't long before the boy turned and found the 3rd Hokage right beside him with a bowl in front of him. "So, how was the ramen?" Sarutobi asked him with a smile plastered on his face. "It was good, like normal," responded Naruto. "Thanks for taking me out today old man." "No problem. I don't like being stuck in the office all day doing work and it's pleasant to actually walk around the village once in a while. Don't you worry old man. Soon I will be the one who will take that hat from you." "Of course you will Naruto," he chuckled before he faced the young boy. "Naruto, do you know why you want to be Hokage?" "Yeah, so that everyone would notice and respect me." "Of course," chuckled the 3rd before he started to eat his bowl of ramen. "But did you know is more to being a Kage than respect?" "Really? What is it then old man?" "In Konoha, shinobi of all genders and rank are what they are today because they want to do one thing. They want to protect those they care about from harm. Whenever they fight with the desire to protect, and thus allowing them to wield a strength that those with the desire to destroy or kill do not have. So being a Kage isn't about respect. Respect comes with the position my boy, but respect is earned and not freely given. If you want to the Hokage, what will you fight for?" End of flashback. Gigi said that strength comes from the desire to protect those they care about, thought the blonde before he looked the golem in front of him. Then that's why I want to become a shinobi. I want to protect. You have an answer? Exodus asked before he received a nod. I want to become a shinobi because I want to be able to protect my family, friends, and my loved ones from harm. I will protect Konoha, so you will still protect them even after the suffering they have caused you. Why, the village is like one big family. There is always going to be arguments and disagreements between people, but in the end, they are still family. You chose wisely. Most would say power or fame that comes with the name, but you did not. You remembered the reason why some of people became shinobi. With your resolve, you will grow strong to do your best to protect and to never give in when the tide goes against you. I, Exodus, give Naruto Uzumaki the blessing of the earth. May it assist his resolve to defend those he loves. Thank you, said the young Uzumaki before he remembered his manners and gave a small bow towards the stone giant, who was replaced with Ares. I'm next. I am Ares, the spirit of the wind, and I will test your control, she said. For me to do so, I must make you relive parts of your memory. I understand that you suffered greatly and I am sorry that I must do this. With that said, she touched Naruto's forehead with her finger and resulted in the blonde's eyes to slowly drift close. All he heard were whispers before his eyes opened once again. Everything around him was gone and replaced with a crowd of people. The whispers soon became clear as they reached his ears and brought forth memories of his past. Theria Eater Isa, I can't believe a Eater is here. Demon, you killed my family, murdered my wife, lost my children, abandoned by the parents. Let's kill the demon. Time to rid this village of your foul presence. Children, don't go near him. He is a very bad child. Soon, the white-colored sky starts to darken into night while people started to appear with blunt objects before they moved towards him. The beating started as the several objects made impact with his skin, leaving large bruises or large cuts that leaked blood. The beating continued and blood maintained its tempo as it flowed from his wounds. Naruto felt turmoil, but he knew that it wouldn't matter what he did, they would just keep on going. He closed his eyes and waited for more to come, but it never did. Instead, he felt something touch his body. His eyes opened to see the long dirty blonde hair of Ares. Her tears rolled down her face as she continued to hug the boy close to her. The warmth engulfed Naruto and he felt something he has never felt before. His short arms wrapped around the waist of the woman as he laid his head on her chest. The feeling left him vulnerable, but this feeling he longed for. Ares laid her head on top the blonde's head as she continued to hold him. No words were spoken for several minutes as the feeling of despair quickly evolved into one of comfort and longing. Slowly, the two blondes let go of each other as they wiped away their tears. Thank you, whispered Naruto. I've never felt that way before. It felt different, yet it feels like something I've been longing for. It was nothing, Naruto, Ares said as she looked at the boy with a smile on her face. I will be here for you. You won't have to be alone anymore like before. Your memories brought me to tears and your emotions were in turmoil, but you controlled them. Emotions are important for all living life along with control. An example is that of anger. When anger is not controlled, it will cause mayhem in its wake. You were able to suppress your emotions to a certain extent. I, Ares, give Naruto Uzumaki the blessing of air. May it help you in your path towards the future. I believe I will give you the next test. I am Bahamut, the spirit of fire, and I will test your strength, Bahamut says as he moves closer to the boy. What is it that you believe? Is there good or evil? Right against wrong. Flashback. Hey old man, Naruto said as he walked into the Hokage's office to find the third Hokage sitting on his chair. Thanks for teaching me how to read. It's helped me with the book I got. It's no problem, my boy, Sarutobi replied with a small chuckle. So tell me, what was the book about? I forgot about it. Well, it's about a good guy that beats up a bad guy and then brings peace to the land. Interesting. I remember that talk we had a few weeks ago. Yeah, what about it? Here's another thing for you to think about. Is there good and evil in this world? Of course there is, old man. Everyone knows that there is good and evil. True, but what happens when you have to commit a deed of evil for the events to bring good? I don't know. Naruto, in the world of shinobi, we must learn to kill others. But why must shinobi kill? It's murder. True, but the act is necessary as killing your opponent may be your only hope of you and those you protect to survive. You were right when you said that there is good and evil in this world. Greed, lust, thirst for blood, and many others are prime example of that. However, there is a point where the decision between good and evil is simple, like black and white. A shinobi killing is an example of that. How? Sometimes, we as shinobi must kill to protect those who are innocent. We feel sadness, guilt, and remorse for doing so, but we find it necessary to protect those whom we love from harm. There comes a point when killing is a bad thing. When you start to enjoy the feeling of blood on your hands, the blood of innocents and many others, then it is an act of evil. Do you understand what I'm saying? I think so. You are saying that while there is good and evil, there are some instances where an act of evil is for good. It's all about intent. Yes, remember these little things, Naruto, and you will become a great shinobi one day. Follow what I have told you, and someday, you'll be the one with his hat. End of flashback. There is good and evil in this world, Naruto replied. Some acts are evil while others are good. However, sometimes an evil act is necessary for good. It is about the intent of the act. Is that what your heart says? Is that what you believe? A. Bahamut questioned before receiving a nod. A. In existence, there has always been good and evil. You truly believe that the existence good and evil is black and white, but there is also shades of grey. The act committed is always about intent. Make wise decisions and listen to your heart, for your future is all about it. I, Bahamut, give Naruto Uzumaki the blessing of fire. May it guide him to his future, wherever it may take him. I believe that it is my test next, Bahamut. I am Velina, spirit of water, Velina said as she moved forward. For my test, you must catch this bunny and bring him back to me. With that said, the bunny appeared several meters away before it ran down a new corridor. Naruto burst out in a sprint to catch the animal that now currently roams his mind. Every few meters of running, he would find himself at an intersection with the corridors going to different directions, and he would choose one of the pathways to go down. After the 11th intersection, he stopped. Where is that thing? He asked himself before he decided to wait and examine his location for clues. Suddenly, he heard a splashing all around him, and it soon started to get louder, as if the source was getting closer to him. It wasn't long before he saw a ball of white at the end of the hallway, and it wasn't long for him to recognize the bunny in all its glory. It ran towards him before it suddenly stopped a few feet away from him. Naruto just stood there with a confused look before he shrugged and held out his hands. The bunny tilted its head in confusion before it stared into the eyes of the blonde boy. Silence soon reigned as the two beings stared into each other's eyes. After several minutes, the bunny suddenly moved forwards before it jumped into the hands of the blonde boy. The boy was surprised at the action but decided against doing anything rash. Instead, he started to pet the animal as he walked towards his starting location. It took him several minutes to find the chambers, and once he entered, the spirits all looked at him. "Here you go," he said as he handed the white animal to Velina. "One bunny is requested. An hour and 19 minutes, Velina stated to him. That was faster than the others I have tested. Most of them fail to catch my bunny, but those that do take around 2 to 3 hours. I assumed to figured out a way to trap him quickly. Actually, he ran towards me and I just waited before he jumped into my hands. What you didn't know was that this was a test of patience," Velina informed him. Having the patience to wait will bring results that no one would be able to predict. With patience, one will be able to think clearly and come up with a better solution. I, Velina, give Naruto Uzumaki the blessing of water. May it protect him from rashness and impatience. Now comes the true test, Oden said as he moved forward with a smirk that made the blonde shiver. You will fight me. Give me your best, boy. Bring it on, Naruto said as he assumed a fighting stance. With pleasure. With that said, Oden charged towards Naruto at blinding speeds before he punched into his gut. It launched him back several feet. As the blonde attempted to get up, the spirit appeared and slammed him back into the ground before he kicked him. The boy slams into the ground and created a small trench. He slowly rose from the ground before he wiped away the blood on his face. "Ugha," he groaned before he stood up. "Is that all you got? You wish, brat." An elbow slammed into the young Uzumaki's face and caused him to fly into the arm before Oden's other arm slammed him into the ground. The child's body hits the ground. "Don't tell me you are giving up so easily. You are a weakling and this is a waste of time," growled Oden as he started to walk away. You are weak and you will fail to protect what you find precious. They will be dead and you will not be able to do anything about it. Behind him, the boy struggled to get up while blood continued to leak from his mouth. It took him a few moments to stand up, but his head was angled so that his hair covered his eyes from view. Odin turned at that moment and saw him standing. So you can still stand. What is your next move? I would personally suggest that you give up, taunted Odin. Just run away and go back to your hole. Run like the coward you are. What did you just call me? A coward. Suddenly, a wave of energy engulfed the boy as he charged the lightning spirit with a raised fist. Odin quickly blocked the punch before he dodged another. The blonde boy continued to throw punch after punch, never stopping until Odin disappeared from his view. Suddenly, he felt himself flying through the air before making impact with the ground. He knew that he had no energy left before he tried to push himself up. Stop it, Naruto, this test has come to its end, Odin said as he walked towards the blonde boy. Naruto just ignored the statement as he struggled to push himself up and continued to fall back down. He knew that he failed, he wasn't strong enough. The tears soon started to fall from his eyes. Why am I so weak? I'm worthless and weak, Naruto mumbled as he lets the tears fall. I can't protect my precious people. I'm so weak, so worthless. Odin did not move, but Ares and Velina rushed towards him before they kneeled beside his body. They helped him to a sitting position before engulfing him in a hug. They spoke words of comfort to him as the sounds of his sniffles echoed throughout the area. It took the two female spirits a few minutes before the boy was finally able to look at Odin. The lightning spirit looked down at the blonde as his hardened eyes softened. Naruto, you have passed my test, he said, resulting in much surprise to the young Uzumaki. You have proven your strength to me in many ways. You fought me head on. That was courageous but stupid move. And every time I put you down, you always found a way to get back up. I wasn't able to get up, Naruto interrupted as his eyes started to leak tears. I wasn't strong enough. Don't be discouraged, Odin said. Your strength will come over time. You found strength when I mentioned your resolve, and when time comes, that will be your focus. It will be what makes you shinobi. Odin, give Naruto Uzumaki the blessing of lightning. May it give him the strength to protect his precious people and hold his resolve true. Suddenly, the 5 elemental spirits glowed with bright colors before it started to grow even brighter. Naruto covered his eyes to prevent himself from being blinded by the light. Unknown to him, the light moved towards the blonde boy before it entered his body. It only lasted a few more minutes before the light finally died down. As Naruto blinked his eyes, he found his vision slowly returning. It is done, said Bahamut. What's done? Asked the young Uzumaki. We have given you the energy to begin our training, answered Velina. Around this chamber, there are 5 kanji representing our respected elements, added Odin as she motioned towards the glowing symbols to the boy. It is dull and dim to represent the control you have over our elements, mediocre at best. But as you proceed in our training, it will start to glow brighter until you finish. What happens then? That is for you to find out, Ares said before she saw Naruto's pout. Train hard, young one, rumbled Exodus. And you will grow strong to protect. You will become the shield for your loved ones. Makes us proud, Ares said as she moved to give the boy a hug. We will help guide you down the right path, but you must be able to make decisions on your own. We will always be here for you, Velina said as she hugged the young Uzumaki after Ares. We will always be here for you, don't forget that. Thank you for everything, Naruto said with a smile. It's no problem, answered Bahamut before he sensed something. I sense someone near your body outside, an old man I believe. That's Gigi, he must be so worried, the young Uzumaki said before he started to look around frantically. Do you know how I can get out of here? This is your mind. I guess just will yourself to wake up. I'll try that. I guess I'll see you next time. We'll be here for you, so don't you worry. With that said, the blonde faded from the mindscape, leaving the 5 spirits. He will become strong, there is no doubt about it, said Odin. I agree, rumbled Exodus. He is a diamond in the rough, but with enough time, he can be refined to become something truly magnificent. Is that why you summoned us here, Lord QB? A asked Velina, only to get no response. We will ask later on. It must have taken a large amount of energy to call us here, A said Bahamut. Let us retire and plan a schedule for his training. The 5 spectral beings walked out of the circular chambers. They didn't see the pair of slitted eyes that watched everything had occurred. If only you all knew. Reality. It had been several days since Naruto had been admitted to the hospital for injuries that he had received from the severe beatings that almost left him mutilated and maimed. The third Hokage sat right beside the boy that laid on the bed. He visited regularly with hope to see the boy awaken once more, but this day was different from the rest. It began several minutes ago as the boy started to sweat and pant before a bright light encompassed his body. It only lasted a few minutes before being absorbed into his body. The old man started to think about what had just occurred before he heard a soft yawn. His eyes averted to the origin of the sound and found himself to be looking at the sitting boy with outstretched arms. Naruto smacked his lips as if he had woken from a deep slumber. "Hello Naruto," greeted the third Hokage. "Gigi," Naruto cried as he gave the Kage a hug. "I'm glad to see you are well. I've been worried about you." "Thank you Gigi, thank you for saving Ma." "It's no problem. Amma can ask you a serious question." "Sure, I'll answer it the best I can. What really happened to the QB that night? What brought this question forth?" asked a surprised Hokage before he looked at the boy. "The fourth killed it during that night." "Why do you ask?" "I met something when I was asleep," answered Naruto. Unknown to the boy, the elder Sarutobi's eyes narrowed with suspicion. It said its name was QB and that we were inside me." "It was a dream Naruto-kun. Nothing more. Please Gigi, please don't lie to me anymore." "Very well," the Hokage said with a sigh before he turned around. "Leave us." 3 ANBUs emerged from the shadow before bowing and exiting the room. The third pulled a piece of paper with several kanji on it and slammed it on the wall. It caused a layer of blue to cover the whole room. "Now what has the QB told you?" asked the old man nervously. "It's a long story Gigi, and I'm not sure you are going to believe me when I tell you. Try me. Where should I start?" the third asked himself while deep in thought. "Beginning would be a great place to start, but before I begin, please understand why I had to refrain from telling you about this earlier. You are young and alone. I wouldn't know you would react." Naruto just remained silent. "I would spend many of my nights in the office thinking of how to tell you about your burden when you were older without your reacting negatively about it. But it seems that it doesn't matter anymore. I always knew that there was something different about me," whispered the blonde. "The constant glares and the hateful things they do to me. I never knew why they hated me so much, but they knew what I held within me. I would always question what I did to deserve the beatings. They always treated me like this since I can remember. You were there to help me, Gigi. You tried to help me as much as you can along with Doggy-san and Kitty-sana. You weren't supposed to be treated like this. The fourth Hokage wanted you to be treated like a hero," said the elder Sarutobi. "But the civilians wanted you to be killed for what you held. Somehow, I knew what they were going to do, and that resulted in me passing a law." "What law Gigi?" "It's an S-rank law that I made. It was to prevent the council of passing on the information they learned to the citizens of the village. The punishment was death, but somehow, the people learned of my burden. Yes, it wasn't until after a week of constant attacks that I found out what had happened. So I extended the law I created to them. It was to prevent anyone in the future generations from learning of your burden without my or your consent.